webinar series by the Institute of Product Leadership. For those who already know us, we are an institution which has been there since 2012, about 7 years now. We have about 1,800 alumni across different courses that we offer, and about 220 plus companies which have engaged with us across the globe. Our campuses for various courses are in the CMI University in Bangalore, MIT, ADT University in Pune, Institute of Management Technology in Hyderabad, and Rutgers Center of Innovation in New Jersey, USA. A couple of our corporate clients that we've had across the years are Vodafone, BMC Software, Cisco, Bosch, VMware, and a lot more that you see. So for those of you who have a burning question, mostly around product lines and those new age skills, if you want a 30-minute coaching session with one of our faculty, just scan the QR code that you see on the screen and you'll be able to book an appointment. I suggest that all of you make use of this particular session because you'll be able to have a one-on-one discussion as against discussing on a public. So the speaker for today will be giving us a talk. In the meanwhile, you guys can ask all those questions that you have. And the questions that you can ask is either to Twitter, that you can tweet your questions, you can post on LinkedIn, or even email us. The easiest way is also to use the Q&A section in the slide given here, and you can use there to post the questions, and we'll pick them up and we'll ask the speaker once the talk is over. While having said that, the best question will win the book recommended by the speaker, and this time it is the most famous book. Quite often we have recommended product Chasm. Question today, evaluated by the speaker, will get the book as shown here. All right, so today we have the webinar by Mr. Ganesh Iyer, VP and Global Head of Marketing at the IPC Systems, and he will be speaking about winning strategies for B2B product marketing, right? So what does Ganesh Iyer otherwise do? He is a technology marketing executive with 20 plus years of experience working with the C-suite, private equity and venture capital firms to drive strategy. He has deep experience in driving global integrated marketing plans, brand strategy, product marketing, external communication, public relations, digital marketing, marketing automation, and customer marketing. He's widely quoted in the press regarding various aspects of financial markets. He's a speaker, panelist, and delegate at various industry events in the American, EMEA, and the Asia Pacific region. So without further ado, I'll welcome Ganesh. Over to you now for the talk.
Thank you, Bibin. I'm just going to put my slides up. So good evening to everyone. And thank you for the kind introduction, Bibin. I'm Ganesh Iyer. I'm the Vice President of Product Marketing of Global Marketing at IPC. I just want to give you a quick introduction as to who IPC is, for those of you who don't know. We provide specialized trading communications and managed networks that are focused exclusively on the financial markets. So we started about 45 years ago, and the specialized phones that traders use on their desktops, we are a leading provider of that solution. And we have over 200,000 traders around the world that are using our solutions. And that's our primary buyer persona, the traders, and others that also use our solutions are regulated users in the financial markets, such as portfolio managers, analysts, economists, risk and compliance people, people in the middle and back office in banks, as well as in the investment management community. Today, I'm just going to talk to you about the role of product marketing and the skills that are required for successful product marketing. Now, this product marketing is a very confusing term, and it means different things to different people. And I would like to set a definition for it so that everyone's on the same page. And it's basically the process of bringing together a product to market and overseeing its overall success. And the focus of a product marketer is to understand and market to customers, drive demand and usage of the product, and that often includes writing positioning statements and messaging. And positioning and messaging is a key product marketing skill. Now, product marketing can sit in a number of places. It's some people think it sits within product. Other people would say it sits within the sales organization. It falls in the intersection really of sales, marketing, and product. And you have to have a very diverse range of skills to be successful in a product marketing role. And all of it depends on how it's defined by the particular firm that you work for. But universally speaking, I would say it's very challenging to define the role. And it's especially true when you start comparing it to product management. And it's not very clear often as to what the difference between the two is. So I think that's the first thing we have to get out of the way. So what's the difference between product marketing and product management? Often used interchangeably, I find. I would say that if you think about it, the role of a product manager is first and foremost, this is the person that's responsible for defining in detail the product that the engineering team will build, as opposed to the product marketing manager or the product marketing person. That person is responsible for telling the world about a product. So it's really two different jobs, and very, very different. And you need to have for every product that's relevant, you need to have a single accountable product manager that's responsible for the product definition. And that's really a combination of product requirements and user experience that describe the product that's to be built. And that's very different than a product marketing manager who has to have a deep understanding of the market and the customer and tell the story of the product. So I would say there are two sides of the same coin, and both have to be working very closely together in order to help with the successful launch of a product. So now there's many different situations which make this not happen, right? So there might be a product marketing person or a product manager that's titled with product requirements, and then the product goes straight to engineering, bypassing all the detailed product requirements that are needed to make and also the tough decisions that go along the way, right? In terms of user experience and design. If that person if they just pass things on to engineering, like that's not the ideal product manager in this case. If the product definition role is split between the product marketing person who is responsible for high-level business requirements and the product manager that's responsible for the low-level product requirements, that's also not an ideal situation. And a product marketing person covering both sides, again, not ideal. So you might have seen the situation where there's a product manager that the rest of the product team views as the marketing resource that might just be creating data sheets, training the sales force, coming up with naming and some pricing. But in terms of defining the product, this person is largely ignored. And you might have even seen cartoons about this type of person. And that's, while this person might be great at marketing, that person would have no idea at defining what a product is that's detailed and that's useful, and a product that engineering can build. So that's not a true product management function. So I don't want to get too much into what product management does, but it's really important for everyone on the call to understand the difference between product marketing and product management, and that the fact that one person cannot do the other person's job efficiently. And I've seen myself in my career that very often when there isn't a product marketing person at a company, the product manager ends up becoming the product marketing person. But given the nature of what product management requires, that person would never be successful doing product marketing because it's a very, very different job. Same thing, I've seen the situation, and you probably all have seen the situation where there is no product manager, and very often engineering just drives product management, but that's not ideal. And a product marketing person driving product management, again, not ideal. So it's very important to understand the difference between these two very distinct roles. There's also a continuum between product management, product marketing, and marketing. If you look to the left of product management, I would put engineering in there, or also product owner, which is a term that Scrum came up with. But this continuum has to work like a seamless machine, with product management defining the market requirements and being strongly internally focused, understanding the customer experience, the user experience, product marketing being able to tell the story to the market, and marketing making sure that all the messages are consistent. Marketing has to focus on acquiring and converting customers, focusing on prospects and leads, promoting the company, its brand, ensuring the consistency of the marketing message. This is what traditional marketing would do, whereas product marketing would focus on driving demand and adoption, with the focus on creating happy, successful customers. So product marketing owns the message, and product marketing would supply that message to marketing, and marketing would create that consistency in the message, the consistency in the brand. I think there's less confusion there between what product marketing and marketing does, as opposed to the product management, product marketing distinction. Now, very often, you also have to remember that you're marketing, as a product marketing person, you're marketing to a broad market. You're not dealing with all individual leads or individual situations or individual sales use cases. It's very easy for a product marketer to get trapped into each individual salesperson's requirement and not tell a holistic story to the market for the broad use case of a product. So what are successful skills, or what are the skills that a successful product marketing professional should have? There are a few that I think that are really important. And I would say the most important of the skills is the ability to tell a story. Storytelling is really important. I think as marketers, you have to be able to tell a story in a thought leadership manner. It should not be a sales pitch. You should be able to relate to what's happening in the marketplace and discuss business problems and market problems that customers are looking to solve, and portray your solution as something that offers a solution for market problems and issues that the market is facing, as opposed to talking about your product, its features and benefits. It has to be about business problems that your product is going to solve. And I'll give you a few examples from my own company as to how we position our products and services as solving problems and business challenges that real life customers have, as opposed to talking about features and benefits and bells and whistles that the product has. So being a good storyteller is critical. In fact, I would say we are all storytellers. Just like I would say that in a technology company, we should all think of ourselves as salespeople. I would say we should all think of ourselves as storytelling people, but this is a primary skill that a product marketer should have. Research and analysis, again, very important. You should have strong market analysis skills. You should understand why customers are buying the product, why we're winning, why you're losing, what are the blockers in the marketplace, what are the problems that are being solved by your product, and what are the pain points that are out there. Is there someone is the market is willing to pay for your pain points? And you should be able to count unique cases of where problems that market participants face are being solved by your solution. So now you could again argue, how is this different from product management? But it's important for a product marketer to understand the customer. And I think this is one place where product management and product marketing have a lot of commonality, because the one thing that both share or both need to share is the love of the customer. So the customer should always be at the center of your universe. And the good product managers and good product marketers can work effectively across the entire organization, whether it's helping the sales team, working closely with the marketing team, or working with the product team. And the whole debate that we have between product management and product marketing is because there is no one size fits all description for either of the roles. So again, as I say, research is really important. You need to be able to understand the customers. You need to be able to segment the market, understand different types of customer segments, understand the buyer personas, and be able to market to these people. How do you put the product on the shelf? How do you launch a product? How do you take what the product manager has given to you, tell the story to the market, understand that market very well, and have that research and analytic skills to go with it to understand what types of business problems they're solving. Again, another skill that's really important, creative problem solving and dealing with ambiguous situations. So nothing's going to be black and white in the life of a product marketer. Every day is going to bring different challenges. It's very, you have to deal with a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty, dealing with the sales force, working closely across different departments. You'll come across new challenges every day, and being able to respond to these ambiguous situations is a must for successful product marketing. And again, the one thing that I stress always is knowing the business of the customer and understanding market problems. There's nothing more important than that for successful product marketing. Now, very often in companies, people are focused on the products, the features of the products, and what it does, and they're not solving towards market problems. The most important thing that you have to be focused on is, what is the market problem that you're looking to solve? If there is no market problem, you can't be selling a solution in search of a problem. That would be the biggest challenge. And it'd be hard to tell a story about a problem that doesn't exist. And if you've done your research right up front, you have all your research, your customer segmentation, your market analytics all done up front, you wouldn't face a situation where your solution in going in search of a problem, and working closely with product management to do that. Now, obviously, if you haven't done this, engineering is going to build a product that's not solving a market problem. And engineering will be able to do anything you ask them to do. Technically, all these things are possible, but if there's no problem to solve, there is no market. And then your product won't sell, and then you'd all be left wondering why this has happened. And that would be a failure of understanding the market, a failure of understanding the customer. Knowing the business of the customer is really important. And why do I say that? You got to live the pain of the customer, and you got to know the daily experience and life of the customer. How does the customer go through his or her day? What are the problems that they face? How do they use your solution? How could they be better using your solution? Are they using all the capabilities of your solution? Are they solving all the problems that are being confronted by them? Can your solution solve all these problems? Do you know what they go through every day? What are the pain points of the market? That's really important to understand. And you do that by talking to customers, doing proof of concepts, working very closely with the product managers. But if you don't understand the business of the customer and know what the market problems you're solving are, neither your product or is going to be successful, neither is your role going to be effective. So in order to be very effective at what you're doing, you really have to understand your customer. So it's not about technical things, and it's not about being a technology expert, especially if you're selling to non-technical people, right? So there's a lot of products out there that are technical products but are sold to business users or non-technology users. So if you're selling to users, especially outside the IT department, being very technical about your product is only one part of the equation, and it's not really required for a product marketer. I think you have sales engineers that can demo products, that can do a great job of doing one-on-one demos, supporting the salespeople. Product marketing managers should not be doing demos and being that technical person. They should be understanding the business problem and be an expert on the customer experience and what challenge they're solving, right? So that's again highly critical for success in this space. So I talked about some of the key skills that a product marketer needs, and I would say that there's a book called Crossing the Chasm, which Bibin brought up right at the beginning. It really defines what a product marketer should do. And the essential goal of a successful product marketer is to help a company cross the chasm. And I'm going to give you some background as to what crossing the chasm is. In the technology product adoption life cycle, there are many stages that you have to market to, or many different types of customers that you got to market to. You first market to the innovators and the visionaries. They're easier to sell to because some of them, especially the innovators, they're looking for the best product out there. They're buying technology for the sake of buying technology. They're the type of people that run to the Apple store the first day the new iPhone is launched. They want the latest technology, even though that technology might have issues. It's not tried and tested in the market. They constitute a very small number of people. The second group is a group of visionaries that also buy technology because they find it very appealing, and they're motivated by huge changes and disruptive technologies, and they are willing to bet on products and solutions that could potentially fail. Now, the market for visionaries and innovators it's very small. It's probably about less than 1/6 of the market. Now, once you go beyond that, you have what's called the early majority, and then the late majority, and then you have the laggards, or the very conservative people. The early majority consists of very pragmatic people who don't want big changes and huge innovations, but really incremental improvements based on using proven products. So they're not going to buy the way visionaries are going to buy. Visionaries are looking for the technology. They're the types of, as I said, they're at the Apple store the night before the launch. The early majority, they want reference customers. They want to be able to reference other customers like them. They want to see that there's others like them that have bought the product. So getting to that group is very challenging, and that's what's called the chasm. The gap between all these groups is very small, but the gap between the visionaries and the gap between the early adopters, it's huge. And the author of the book, Jeffrey Moore, he calls it the chasm. And he relates it to a real life situation from World War II, where he says that for the Allies to conquer Europe and defeat the Axis powers, they had to cross the chasm of the English Channel from England to France. They focused all their efforts on one specific market, in this case, the beaches of Normandy in France. They put all their resources to attack a specific target, which was the beaches of Normandy. And once they conquered the beaches of Normandy, they were able to spread across to the rest of Europe, to Paris, and eventually to Berlin to win the war. The same way, when you cross the chasm to market from the niche, from where you are, to go to the wider market, you have to select a specific segment of customers that are willing to use your product. And this has been tried again and again by some of the most successful software as a service companies. Salesforce.com, they realized that the best target for them were sales managers and sales reps, not customer relationship managers or marketing people. Salespeople, they could see the value in the solution. They move around companies. They, through word of mouth, they have the ability to spread the value of the product. And that's exactly what they did. And they landed some big accounts by this strategy, some of the big banks in New York, and they eventually spread out. And now you see Salesforce everywhere. Facebook did the same thing. They went college campus by college campus by college campus till they eventually got everyone to sign up. So they figured out who is an ideal customer to initially target, that initial beachhead, just like targeting Normandy, and then spreading out rather than focusing all their efforts on everybody and diluting their strategy. And product marketing can play a very significant role in helping make this happen, in helping cross this chasm. But if you don't cross this chasm, you're just going to sink. Just like if in World War II, the Allies didn't have that strategy and they didn't assemble all their troops and focus on the beaches of Normandy, they would have just been sunk in the English Channel and the outcome would have been very different. So many companies fail when it comes to selling disruptive products to mainstream customers, because mainstream customers are looking for referenceable customers. They're looking for word of mouth. They're looking for other people like themselves that are using the products. They're not looking for innovative solutions necessarily that's disrupting or changing the way they have to behave, unless they really have to. And their pain has to be great enough for them to switch to a new solution. So again, the ability to strategize, to be able to understand the business of the customer, who to go after, having those research and analytic skills to understand what customers are looking for, all that's really critical. And it's a product marketing function. So your job essentially boils down to one thing: helping your company cross the chasm. So I've given you an analogy from D-Day in Normandy, and I've given you some examples of companies that did it. And you obviously know these companies, but you also know that this is how these companies moved ahead. It's important to really have focused efforts, understanding the business of the customer, knowing what problem you're solving, strong research and analytic skills, understanding the ambiguous situations, and being a good storyteller. And when I say being a good storyteller, it's not making up stuff and telling stories that don't mean anything. It's about telling real stories about real situations that are taking place in the market, real experiences that customers have, and translating into how your solution can play a role in that. That's really very critical. So you need to be able to bridge that gap between the visionary adopters and the pragmatic majority. You need to be able to target a specific niche. You need to position yourself as a market leader in that niche. That's really important by making a strong claim. You need to be able to show to your customers that where you stand with reference to your competition. And this doesn't just apply to a new company or a startup. If you're launching a new product in an existing company, it's equally relevant. You need to contrast yourself as a market alternative and as a product alternative. And that's really important, right? And many companies have done this very successfully, whether it's the examples I mentioned earlier. Dropbox has done a great job of doing that. Even Uber, right? They initially targeted some of the technology hipsters at the South by Southwest conference. And then they have become this facilitator of taxi liquidity, if I may say so. So it's the most successful companies have adopted this strategy, and there's nothing new in this. You wouldn't believe it. If those of you who haven't heard of this book before, it's been around for over 25 years. So some of the ideas never change in business. Technology constantly changes, but some of the strategies and the ways to go to market those don't really change. So I would say if you're just a teenager that's trying to run your tech startup, or you're somebody who is deeply entrenched and who's been a product marketing manager or a product manager for over 20 years, these philosophies still apply. So again, as I summarized, the story I told is that there's a big chasm between the early market and the mainstream market. The mainstream market's over 80% of the market, and for you to be successful, if you're at any kind of growth stage firm or selling a growth stage product, your job is to help your company cross the chasm. I would say that's the one takeaway that you should walk away with today. So I want to just give you a very high-level storyboard of how I position IPC to someone who doesn't know IPC. I say we talk to our customers, and we consistently hear two things. The first is that everyone is looking for being able to connect throughout the trade life cycle. That is, from every time a buy side creates an order to a broker dealer or a sell side places an order, to the time a trade is executed, to the clearing, settlement, and reporting of a trade, to delivery of market data which provide insights for the buy sides to make their trading decisions. This is a trade life cycle, and everyone needs to connect to everyone else. That's a challenge that market participants face. And everyone needs to be part of a very diverse financial ecosystem comprising of firms that have very differing trading intent, very different philosophies, from asset managers to hedge funds, to insurance companies, to family offices, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, endowments. Every type of financial firm has a different way of looking at the market, a different trading intent, a different investment horizon, different liquidity need. They all need to be part of a very diverse financial ecosystem, whoever they are, wherever they are, anywhere in the world. Those are two challenges that market participants face. And this is brought home by a lot of unpredictability and uncertainty around the world. I mean, we have seen the US dollar surge against a lot of the currencies around the world. You've seen uncertainty in many of the emerging markets, in China and other places. You've seen populism in a lot of Europe, in the US, even in some other markets like Brazil, and there's a lot of populism. You've seen Brexit happen, commodities taking a crash, but now stabilizing, emerging markets facing some challenges. So there's a lot of uncertainty and unpredictability in the world, and this causes volatility in the financial markets. So what are many of our customers looking to do? They're looking to perform any part of that value chain, that trade life cycle, electronically or via voice, and be able to switch channels where needed. Firms are looking for business continuity and disaster recovery. They're looking to trade in a latency sensitive manner, meaning ultra high frequency trading and low latency trading. They're looking to access a community of services. People are looking to collaborate on trading strategies. They're looking to trade by voice in certain markets, all across the front and middle back office, different roles in a compliant manner. So what IPC offers, we offer this global financial ecosystem with market participants around the world, over 6,300 locations in different parts of the world, and offer access to different liquidity venues. And we enable trillions of dollars of trading every day through over 200,000 traders as part of our community. Now notice that I never talked about our technology or what we do or features and benefits. All I'm saying is we offer a community that enables trading. And why is that important? Because of all the volatility that we see, and that this is something that people require. I want to highlight Metcalfes Law. Those of you who are electrical engineers or who know about the Ethernet would definitely have heard of Metcalfes Law, which is coined by Robert Metcalfe, one of the professors at Columbia University. He talks about the power of the connected community, saying that the value of a telecommunications network is directly proportional to the square of the number of users in that network. So as you know, if there's only two people on a network, only they can just connect to each other. That network doesn't have much value, right? But if you have 6,300 locations, that means there's 18 million possible connections amongst those people. If you have 200,000 traders, there's 20 billion possible interactions. So that's the power of the connected community. And obviously you can say this with examples like Facebook and Uber and Airbnb. They all take advantage of the power of the connected community. So I think it's important to bring that concept in. And all these for players like Facebook, or whether it's Uber that brings taxi liquidity without owning any taxis. See, what you see is the power of network orchestration. There's firms that don't own any assets anymore, but they're able to bring together people, right? Whether it's Uber or Airbnb, which owns no hotels, but brings together people that are looking for accommodation. So they're in fact facilitating accommodation liquidity. Whereas Uber is facilitating taxi liquidity. They don't own a single taxi. So that's what the power of the community is. And it's important to be able to tell stories like this, which leave an impression on people so they can walk away and say, aha, okay, this is what these guys do. I then talk about the communications model. There's all these different players in the financial markets. Connecting them, being that glue and that plumbing that connects everyone together is critical. So if you're an institutional investor, everyone from a pension fund to a foundation, an endowment, a sovereign wealth fund, a family office, a corporate treasury, an insurance company, they all need to connect to the markets. They need to connect to asset managers and hedge funds that take in money from them. And then you need to access the markets. So again, it's important to understand the business of these customers. How does a typical hedge fund manager operate his day? What does a hedge fund trader do? Who do they talk to? What do they need? What are their pain points? Are they talking to a pension fund manager? Who are the brokers that they're connecting to? What are the types of asset classes that are they trading? All this is important for a good product marketing manager to understand. And notice none of this is technical in the sense of what are the features and functions of our product and what button do you press or what do you drag and drop in our GUI. That's not part of the discussion. It's about understanding the pain of the customer. And it's a very hard thing to do. Believe me, it doesn't come overnight. But if you commit yourself to understanding the business of the customer and their pain points, I can guarantee that you will be successful. Now, I want to give you an example of a typical buy-side firm or a hedge fund. They have many pain points. A hedge fund needs to talk to broker-dealers and different exchanges. That's on the right side. On the left side, they need to talk to pension funds and all their other investors. That's on the left side. They need to access market data. They need to access their portfolio management systems, execution management systems, different trade life cycle services. They need to ensure that they're connected to the markets all the time because markets are 24/7 and around the world. And internally, they need to talk to each other, collaborate. A portfolio manager needs to talk to a software developer. They need to talk to their analysts. They need to talk to economists, the traders, the risk managers. They're all collaborating with each other. We need to have systems and facilities so that that can happen in a seamless manner. So understanding who is a hedge fund talking to, who is an asset manager talking to, within the firm, outside of the firm, what kind of solutions are they using? What are their typical pain points? What's their user experience? That's really important to understand. So again, I summarize by talking about why is accessing a dynamic, diverse cloud ecosystem beneficial? You have access to an open, digitally connected community. You can efficiently link buyers and sellers. The dealers can offset their inventory more easily, and I'll explain that with an analogy. Dealers don't have to hold their positions that much. Investors can directly transact with each other, improve price discovery. So what does that really mean in layman's terms, right? If a bank and a buy side, they're not part of this community, the bank will have to hold all these assets till they find someone they can unload these assets to. That takes time, and that's inefficient. The buy side can directly go to other buy sides and buy securities. So let me give you an example from the car dealerships. If there's no car dealership, right, you as a buyer would have to try to find other buyers. The car dealerships are facilitating that. They're helping you find other buyers. Now, the car dealerships also if they have more buyers and they're able to attract more buyers, they don't have to hold on to their inventory of cars for long enough. So that's just an analogy that I'm trying to give that's outside of the financial markets. But being part of a community, it's really important because today we live in a disruptive world and you have to be able to adapt to change, and you need to be able to find other people to find other counterparties to communicate with. And whether that's in the financial markets or the examples that I gave you with Facebook and Uber and Airbnb, it's all relevant. So basically, in summary, like what I would go out and say is that connectivity and ecosystems are really critical. You need to be part of a large and diverse community so that you can achieve your goals, which is to generate profits for your end users, to diversify, to mitigate risk, to source liquidity, and so on. So that's a very high level messaging that just tells the story without getting into the technical weeds. It's really important to be able to be a storyteller, talk about what you're hearing from customers, the market problems that are out there, and being able to tell a story and help support the go-to-market strategy for your firm. Now, I said that your job pretty much as a product marketer is to help your company cross the chasm. I also do say that it's very, very important for you to provide value to sales and your sales team, because if your sales team is not successful, I can guarantee that in the end, you're not going to be successful. So if your salesperson in your company is driving a Maserati or a Lamborghini, I would say that's a good thing for all of you, because ultimately you want them to be successful and you want them to be making a lot of money, because if they're not doing it, then ultimately the firm and the product is not going to be successful. So I would always say that make yourself very valuable to the salespeople, not necessarily going deal by deal and trying to do customized solutions and creating customized collateral, but definitely provide tremendous value to your sales team. Make sure that they're reaching their objectives, because ultimately if you provide value to sales, you become a very valuable resource for your company and an expert, and make sure that you're always tapped upon as a resource for your sales team. I would say that's, again, something really important. And if you're helping your company cross the chasm and you're doing all these other things that I mentioned, you're very, very likely to be making an impact on the bottom line and helping your salespeople. So always keep that focus of helping sales and showing value to the salespeople. So again, I just wanted to give you an overview of my views on the skills that you need to develop to be a successful product marketer. And it's not a very straightforward thing, because what I find is in that industry, it's very, very ill-defined. And very often product managers are stretched and they're doing the role of a product marketer. Others in the company often not very qualified to do product marketing because they don't even understand the product, right? The product manager understands the product well enough, so then they end up doing some product marketing, but they don't necessarily have these other skills like strong writing skills. I would urge you to acquire strong writing skills if you don't have it, strong customer understanding, and very strong marketing skills. You need to be able to stand up and acquire those skills. That's really critical. So with that said, Bibin, I'm open to any questions or any comments, and if we don't get to things, I'd be more than happy to respond in email later, and I'd be also very happy to connect with any of you on LinkedIn. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. It's my passion to really make everyone successful in product marketing and help marketing professionals and product professionals be successful, and also helping sales, because ultimately you're measured by how you help your sales team.
Shiva Naresh, and the question says, the success and the failure of any product and or any service is primarily due to who has the single point of accountability. Is it the product manager or the product marketing head? Do I repeat the question again?
It broke. Yeah, success of a failure of a product. Who is the single point? Who is it? Is it the product marketing head, or is it the product manager if something fails?
Correct.
I would not pin it on any one person. I think this is a team sport, and to say that any one person is to blame, it wouldn't be appropriate, and it depends on how things are structured, right? And when things don't work, everyone points at everyone else. In that, you'll say that the product was good enough, but the sales team doesn't know how to sell. The sales team will say that the product lacked the features, and the product is not priced appropriately. I mean, the sales would come back with two things: product not right, price not right. Product team would say sales didn't sell, marketing did not market the product properly. So that's very typical. You'd see this in many organizations. So I would say that if you do your work up front in a partnership where you've found the problem that's there, is there a valid problem in the market that people are struggling to solve? And is there a customer base or customers that are willing to buy that product? So if you do the market research right and you do your go-to-market strategy and planning correct, I think the product will succeed. And in general, it's a team thing. And I would say that if the product fails, you would hold both the product marketing and product teams both accountable. It's not any one person. And every part of this process has to go right, from the go-to-market definition to researching the market, understanding the market problem, if the problem actually exists. Because very often what happens is you might find 2 or 3 customers that ask for something, or you might just decide, and which is not scalable, or you might just decide to build something because you have to build something and iterate your product, but you have not really done the due diligence on the market. Then it's going to eventually, when rubber meets the road, sales are not going to be able to sell, right? Because the market was never there. So it's multiple places where things can go wrong. Then of course you've done all the due diligence right, but you haven't structured your sales right. So it could be the problems could be in many places. And so I don't have a straight answer for you, but the problem could be in the product team, the way it's defined and how engineering has been resourced that side. It could be with how it's being taken to market, or it could be how the sales team is structured too. So it could be n number of things. So taking a product to market is very complex, and it has to be done with a lot of care, and it's a team sport.
All right. Thank you so much for that. The next question is from Balaji, and his question is regarding the risk that you were speaking about. Is there any tool that I can use to analyze risk?
So what risk are you talking about? I mean, when I spoke about risk, I was talking more in the financial markets context and said that the goal of customers is risk management. I wasn't talking about product risk per se. I was talking about risk management more in terms of the messaging for financial markets customers. I didn't bring risk management, I don't think, into the discussion around skills and product marketing specifically.
Okay. But if at all, if there is a product that I'm launching market, and I have to analyze some sort of risk in terms of how the market will respond, would you some tool?
I don't know of any specifically, no.
Right. Okay. All right. The next question comes in from Rahul, and the question he's saying is, what is the real difference between pre-sales and product marketing?
Pre-sales is a sales resource that markets, or I wouldn't say markets, that supports the sales team on every sales call. So they go to customers, they do product demos, they answer the technical questions about the products. They are not necessarily market experts or people who know about broader market problems or necessarily storytellers. They are people who show the product, who answer the technical questions about how the product works in different situations. and they deal with customers on a one-on-one basis. Product marketing, on the other hand, and I would say that goes to product management too, is dealing with a broader market. So they are dealing with the market as a whole and talking about broad problems and broad trends. They don't deal with each customer problem and go and visit every customer as a resource of the sales force. So they would run let's say to run a campaign, they would write the message and the story and the use case, and they would give that message to marketing. They would develop content and thought leadership. They might sit on a panel in a conference or things like that, but they're dealing with a broader market. They would they would be responsible for the overall messaging and positioning of the company and the writing of content and give that to marketing to attack the market. A sales engineer, on the other hand, doesn't do any of that. A sales engineer is focused on the product in supporting individual salespeople on individual situations. So I would say very, very different role altogether.
Just a question, just to add on to this, Ganesh, is it because we think that marketing precedes sales? Because I feel marketing works in tandem with sales, because if I'm looking at nurturing a lead, I think that is still a part of marketing, not sales, correct? Probably is this question come up because people generally feel that, do the marketing, ads go in, the white papers go in, and then the sales people just cut the market with their presence. Is it because of that?
So you broke up a little bit. Can you just repeat? You talked about lead nurturing, right? So I can answer that. That is entirely a marketing function, in that you got to work through that marketing funnel, right? So marketing puts lots of leads in the top of the funnel, qualifies those leads, and then monitors the progress of those leads with sales. Right. But they're not necessarily going to visit a customer or doing a demo with sales, right, for a qualified lead. So marketing will understand how many leads are qualified, how many are getting rejected, what are the rejection reasons, how many are going to sale, what is the sales cycle like, how long is a lead in the funnel for. All of that marketing does. And if a lead is aging, what kind of programs do I put into place so that a lead doesn't become stale? All that is marketing with the help of product marketing. Sales engineers are working with sales on those specific leads to support the salespeople. Marketing is driving the leads as a partner through with the sales team in the overall process. But marketing is targeting the broader market, bigger picture, n number of leads, supporting the whole company. Sales engineers are generally paired up with salespeople. Obviously, there'll be 3 or 4 salespeople that one sales engineer is assigned to, however that works. But there are generally more sales engineers in a firm than a product marketing person also. The ratio is probably 1:3 or 1:4, maybe even higher.
Okay. Makes sense. Right. Thank you for that. And the next one is from Dayanand. And the question is, how easy is it for a product manager without a marketing background to take up a product marketing role?
I would say it's a harder challenge than most think it to be. So I see that a lot of engineers become product managers. That itself is a big jump, bigger jump than most people realize, because they think that being technical is sufficient and you can become a product manager. But then the role of the product manager involves defining a product in detail that engineering will build. And that requires a lot of market requirements understanding. The same way, a jump from a product market manager to a product marketing manager is not an easy jump to make. I still think it is easier to do that than the other way around. For a product marketing manager to become a product manager is an even harder jump, only because if you don't have, you need to have a lot of credibility with engineering to be a product manager. And I think that's very hard for somebody who hasn't grown up in that side to get. So I think it's a very, very good question you ask. I think it's a difficult jump, but it's still doable, and it's easier to do than the other way around. So I will say product manager to product marketing manager, if you start getting into the business of the customer, develop strong writing skills, and really know the customer and the customer's problems, it's doable. Get some business knowledge and really get into the customer's problems. It's doable. It's still not an easy leap to make. And very often companies put product managers in charge of product marketing because no one else can do it, because the traditional corporate marketing is not technical enough to do product marketing. So product managers end up in that role and they grow into that role. And Bibin was mentioning this to me when I had a call with him last week. He said, there's a lot of accidental product managers. And I would say same way, there's a lot of accidental product marketing managers. So if you want to be truly good product marketing managers, take into account all these business principles that I talked about. It's doable, but it's challenging. But I will say that it's easier to be for a product manager to become a product marketing manager than for a product marketing manager to be a product manager. But again, very different skills. That's why I think I mentioned that and I stressed the importance, and I'm happy you asked that question.
All right, thank you so much for that. The next one is by Teja, and it says, as you mentioned, understanding the customer problem is key in product development and marketing. In B2C, it is quite possible to reach to our persona to understand their problem. However, in the B2B scenario, reaching out to B2B customers is very challenging. Could you please suggest some good channels or options to reach out to B2B customers to have conversations and understand their problems?
And it's an outstanding question, because I think in general, the industry, B2B industry, technology especially, suffers from this problem. Main reason being, if you look at B2C, marketing pretty much drives everything. The marketing owns everything, brand marketing. If you look at some of the most successful and well-known companies in the world, they're all driven by marketing because they can understand that it's very, whether you look at the Procter and Gambles of the world or Hindustan Lever or anyone, they're all about marketing. Whereas on the other hand, in B2B, marketing doesn't really have much knowledge about what's happening with the customers, and it's based on a few anecdotes. And so yes, you identify the challenge very correctly. It's a pervasive problem in the industry. So one way of doing it, right, for existing products, the customer support area is a good area. You are able to identify a lot of problems that come in, and you're able to identify issues and challenges that people are facing when using your product through the customer service group. So they are a good source of intelligence. I would say here, if you're a good friend of the sales force, you can do a lot. So salespeople are the forefront of competitive intelligence. They know what's going on in the market, and ultimately they got to face the reality. No matter what information you give them, if marketing gives you collateral or you give the product or anything, if something doesn't work and something isn't right, ultimately the salesperson has to bear the brunt, and they have no excuses, right? They're given a number, they got to meet that number, and if they don't meet that number, they're out. So I think being a friend of the salesperson and being a reliable resource, they give you a lot of information about what's going on. And you can go and tackle some of the low risk customers through sales, for sure. And if sales feels that they can put you in front of them, you can conduct a lot of research around that. As I said, so two avenues. The customer support is a good area. Another area is through sales. For new markets, obviously, this is a different challenge because you're not getting anything from customer support or sales because you don't have any customers in that market. And that's where you probably need to figure out ways of getting focus groups done and research done that way. User forums for your other products, if you're an established company, that might start giving you ideas about what other products you could come up with. So I think most new product ideas in existing companies, they are coming through user forums, they're coming through what you're hearing from customer support and from sales. And I think those are some of your avenues. If you're a completely new startup, obviously your idea is coming from somewhere, you're finding some kind of pervasive problem. There it's a little bit harder to get enough data points, I would say. But in general, I would say I would go after these areas in your firm to talk to customers. And then read a lot. I mean, read about customer businesses, and I would focus, if you're in the healthcare industry, know the healthcare industry. If you're in the financial markets, understand how the financial markets work. Because if you go in front of anybody and talk about their problems, they'll be really impressed, because most people would think that you would only be talking about products and not about problems.
Will also answer this question, which is asked by Sridhar. He says, if I don't have reference for the product or it is a first sell, what will be the key points for the product manager to consider? Does it also include in terms of focus groups and going out to people and speaking, or is it more than that?
So I got the first part of the question. You broke up in the second part.
Okay. He asked, if I do not have reference for the product,
mm-hmm.
or it is a first sell, what will be the key points for a product manager to consider, or a product marketing manager to consider?
Right. So this is a chicken and egg problem. Obviously, you don't have references till you have customers, and you don't have customers till you have references. In general, right, you have to understand the use case and why they bought. I think being the ability to do a win analysis for your first customer will enable you to talk about it. And then if that customer was a successful deployment, you should think about trying to get him to be a word of mouth. And even if it's not a named case study, be an unnamed case study. As you get more and more customers, it's important to get them to be referenceable. So you might even want to incent your salespeople to get reference customers. But that's only once you start getting enough numbers. When you have no customers, one way to do it is to develop use cases based on talking to the market and talking about how people could potentially use your product and solve their pain points. So you could create what I would call unnamed case studies or use cases. Start that way. Maybe you can issue a press release that talks about your product and how it solves certain specific business problems for certain segments and how you're excited about doing that. So I think you can start creating if there's a genuine problem that's being solved, you can start creating some buzz around that and putting some use cases out there. And then once you start getting your customers, try to make them referenceable once they're deployed successfully, and to ensure that, and also incent salespeople to get referenceable customers. It could be as simple as paying them for getting customers to agree to be references, because in some industries and large companies, it's very hard. If you sell to large companies, it's very hard to get a documented referenced customer. You'd have to go through lots of different channels, and it's their legal department, all that. So it can be fairly challenging. So start developing use cases, even if they're not real customers. Start telling stories about how people could potentially deploy this type of solution. Create maybe a white paper or something. Start marketing it to your broader customer base. And those are some strategies. But it is definitely a chicken and egg problem.
Right. The question being Anupam Srivastava, how to check the potential white space in product? And I'm thinking this is in lines with the chasm that they're speaking about.
So how do you find out how to target the white space?
Correct. How do you check the potential white space? So after point, you know that this is the white space that I have, and this is where I am at, and then soon I'm going to do the next $1 billion or whatever. So that space, how do I know I'm there?
So if I understand your question right, if I were to give an example from my world, right? If I were to target traders in hedge funds, that would be my chasm, right? And I would attack that with all my resources. And then once I start getting a critical mass of hedge fund traders that use my product, I would start looking at adjacencies and the white space. So within a hedge fund, can portfolio managers and then other roles like middle office risk managers and compliance managers use my product? I would use that word of mouth from the traders to get there. And I would look at adjacencies who are traders, but who are not in hedge funds. So for example, an asset manager or a pension fund or someone else, I'd go after traders there. So I'd look at, let's say in my particular example, I'll go after the trader title in a hedge fund. That's my beachhead, that's my Normandy. Once I find success over there, the adjacent white space has two areas. I look at other firms, that is asset managers or pension funds, and target traders over there, because I can say I helped solve a problem for a trader in a hedge fund. Now I'll solve your problem, Mr. Asset Manager. That's my next white space to go after. Or if I've solved it for a hedge fund trader, I can go to hedge funds and now say that we have solved a problem for traders. Now these similar problems exist for portfolio managers and economists and risk managers. I want to go after those titles. So those are two types of adjacencies. One, within that segment, within that specific type of segment, other roles, and then the same role in other companies, in other types of firms. So the key is to establish that beachhead, show success there, be the leader there, and ensure that there is word of mouth into adjacencies and that white space that is there, that whether it's the same title in other types of firms or within that type of industry, within that type of firm, other types of roles. I hope that answers your question, but that's where I'm going with this.
Right. I think there was some context to that, and that's because most people think when I reach the white space, I'm probably done. That could also be one thing, right? I could think that I'm done. Maybe my product won't sell anymore because it's the blank space. So I think that's where people need to know that there is more potential rather than just the product it being the end of the product. So yeah, I think what you said kind of makes context with that. Right. So the next question is, by every product which exists for a few years reaches a maturity stage and then there are no sales. But the product company, so what does it have to do as a path-breaking change for increasing its sales? Maturity stage and there are no sales. What path-breaking change do I do to probably even relaunch the product or a new product launch and increase its sales?
So you have to, every product has a life cycle, right? If you're, and you have to make sure there's a path to upgrade to the next generation solution. So you have to come up with new solutions. And I mean, this is a matter with new capabilities that people need to use, right? So for example, if the market is using on-prem solutions, say, for example, for a software, and maybe the next thing is to go to cloud. So you then launch cloud as an example, but you have to constantly have a pipeline of releases based on what the market is demanding. So yes, I agree that you would have taken over most of the market for a certain, you'd have taken over, your solution may have even taken over all of the market, and you're saying there's nobody to sell to within that market. So two answers to that. There could be adjacent markets that you could start selling into. So you can take a look at your existing product and see how you can position it in adjacent markets or adjacent industries. That's one way. And the other thing is to offer an upgrade path for your existing customers to move out of older technology and upgrade to existing technology, right? This is exactly what, I mean, some of the firms like even Apple does that, right? Best example, like they constantly have new phones. You could probably do most of the things you're doing with your old iPhone, but people keep changing it anyways. And that's in the consumer world. The same way in technology, you should have a path to a refresh. That's probably, that's what I would say. But just saying that, yeah, we have sold to everyone we can sell to and there's nothing more to sell, and we are just relying on maintenance revenue, I think that'll slowly start. You'll start seeing a decline at some point.
Okay, all right, makes sense. The next one is by Akhil, and his question is: could you give us an example of a good product which was marketed poorly, and what could have been done to improve the marketing effort?
Good product that was marketed poorly. I think there's many products, right, that could not anticipate the change in behavior of consumers, and they could not predict the next trend, right? And I would say, I mean, you all know this one. I can't even say BlackBerry marketed itself poorly, but BlackBerry was the leader, and it was a fashionable thing to have, say about 10, 12 years ago. And business users used to be checking their email there, but they completely missed the trend that there was a huge market out there for personal users, and they focused on that market without understanding the the whole potential that was there. And I mean, they're very good at encryption and technology and everything, but they missed a whole market, and as a result, they have become a very secondary player. The other example which everyone talks about is Kodak, right? Leader, lots of good technology, lots of patents, but they completely missed the digital wave, and as a result, they also folded. So there's a lot of great companies, I would say, that missed the next wave, and there's others that have been able to reinvent themselves constantly when there's disruption and change in the industry. So, I mean, these are two examples that I immediately come to mind. I mean, there's others too. I remember Siebel used to do CRMs and everything, but they are nowhere with Salesforce, the way Salesforce dominated the market. There's some companies that really found niche solutions, and they found a market problem, and they've succeeded tremendously. So, for example, VMware, right? They brought virtualization, and they made the life of the tester very easy. And IBM had that concept in the mainframe long before. I mean, it's since the 50s. So many of these ideas are old, but they're brought out in a new context. So some of those companies are extremely successful, whereas others like Kodak or BlackBerry, they missed some key things, and what was in front of them, and others took advantage of that and leapfrogged them. So I'd say that's my way of looking at this. Bibin, I think we have kind of gone up against our time, but I think this has been phenomenal. I really appreciate all the questions, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, so do you suggest that I send you the remaining questions and probably you can take them offline?
Yeah, if that's okay, because we have, I think, gone over 20 minutes, right?
Sure. I'll do that. No problem.
But I really appreciate the questions. They're really solid, and I know it's very late in India. It's 10:20 at night there?
Yeah, something like that. 10,
so
25.
Really appreciate the interest that has been taken, and I hope you found this useful.
I think a lot of people have, because there are about another 6 to 7 questions. So what I'll do is I'll send these over to you, and probably you can take your time out to send a reply to each of them. It makes more sense because you can probably address them in detail.
Very good. Thank you so much, everybody.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Ganesh.
Yeah. Appreciate everybody taking their time tonight. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, for those who are still on the webinar, the next thing for you to notice is that we have our next webinar on the 9th of March. Please note the timing. This is in the morning from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. IST, that's Indian Standard Time. This would be by Bobby Verghese. He's the product director at Gartner, and we'll be discussing in detail on the power of insights in product marketing. He'll be talking about a couple of instances in Gartner itself and how they help companies in the use of insights for product marketing. Please register on the link that will be shared. It's on the events page. Having said that, the product marketing bootcamp, the 1-month certification course, will start in the first week of March. This is a 4-week live instructor-led session. And this will be conducted by Professor Kanupriya Sindhu, who is the ex-VP for marketing at Canberra. Please make sure that you guys log in and register yourself if product marketing is what interests you. We'll be discussing about buyer persona, positioning statements, segmentation, targeting, marketing metrics, and the sales cycle. Having said that, like I said, the best question will get the book once Ganesh is free to evaluate all the questions that have come in today. And having said that, if there's any more doubts that you have, or if you have, like I said, a burning question, or if you want to know what our latest events are, please log in on www.productleadership.com. Tweet any of your concerns that you have, questions that you have, or any comments regarding the webinars and the other events at Prod Leader, or write into us at engage@ipl.edu.in. Thank you so much for tuning in to the webinar series, and we hope to see you on March 9th at the next webinar. Thank you and have a good evening.